The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered on Zentara Prime for what promised to be the most entertaining session in decades. Ambassador Vexthul stepped forward, his crystalline body catching the light from 100 different suns streaming through the massive windows. Fellow council members, Vexthul began, his voice ringing like distant bells. Today we discuss the humans of the third planet in the Sol system. I have brought examples of their culture. The massive holographic display flickered to life, showing images and videos captured from Earth's transmissions. The first image showed a human male lifting a hammer, lightning crackling around him. The assembled aliens leaned forward with interest. They call this one Thor, Vexthul explained. According to their stories, he controls thunder and lightning with a simple hammer. A ripple of chittering laughter spread through the hall. Counselor Zarketh, a shadow-like being from the Voidstalker species, spoke up. Primitives often create stories to explain what they cannot understand. Thunder is merely atmospheric disturbance. It gets better, Vexthul continued. The display showed more images. A man lifting massive stones, another flying through the air, groups of warriors, fighting impossible odds against monsters and gods. This one fought a giant with only a small stone. Vexthul pointed to an image of David and Goliath. This group of 300 warriors supposedly defeated an army of thousands. The image changed to show Spartan warriors. And this man claims to have the strength of 10,000 men. The laughter grew louder. Several council members were now openly mocking the images. Look at their entertainment, Vexthul said, showing clips from human movies. They create stories where small groups defeat vast armies, where individuals with no technology challenge gods, where they refuse to surrender even when facing certain death. Admiral Kreeth, the military commander attending the session, shook his massive head. His species, the Crushers, valued practical strength above all else. These humans live in fantasy. No species can achieve such things without proper technology and numbers. Exactly my point, Vexthul said. They are dreamers, not warriors. They create impossible heroes because they know they themselves are weak. The display showed more human mythology. Hercules completing his 12 labors, Odysseus outwitting gods, Norse warriors fighting at Ragnarok. Each story brought more laughter from the council. Zarketh stood, his shadow form rippling with amusement. I have studied their military history. They fight each other constantly over tiny pieces of land. Their weapons are crude chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They have not even achieved faster than light travel. And yet, another counselor added, they tell stories of traveling between stars, of weapons that destroy planets, of shields that stop any attack. Pure fiction. Vexthul nodded. Their greatest weakness is their inability to accept reality. They live in dreams of power they will never possess. The council chamber fell silent as High Counselor Rathmore, oldest member of the assembly, spoke. His ancient voice carried the wisdom of 1,000 years. These humans intrigue me. Why do they create such impossible stories? Because they are afraid, Zarketh answered quickly. They know they are weak, so they dream of strength they cannot have. Their stories all follow the same pattern, Vexthul explained. Small defeats large, weak defeats strong. Few defeat many. It is the thinking of a species that knows it will always be on the losing side. Admiral Kreeth stepped forward. High Counselor, these humans are expanding their presence in their local system. They have established bases on their moon and nearby planets. Perhaps it is time to bring them into the galactic community properly. You mean subjugate them, Rathmore said. I mean educate them, Kreeth replied. Show them their place in the galactic order. Their mythology suggests they will not accept membership peacefully. They will need to be convinced. The display showed human space stations and small ships moving between planets. To the alien observers, they looked crude and simple. Their technology is barely adequate for system-level travel, Vexthul observed. My science teams estimate they are at least 500 years behind current galactic standards. Then why waste time with them at all? Asked another counselor. Zarketh smiled, an unpleasant expression on his shadow features. Because they amuse me. A species that believes in impossible heroes should meet real power. It will be educational. Agree, Kreith said. My fleet can handle this easily. A show of force, some demonstration of superior technology, and they will understand their position. High Counselor Rathmore considered this. The humans were clearly primitive, and their mythology suggested they were delusional about their own capabilities. Still, something about their stories bothered him. Why did a weak species consistently dream of defeating stronger opponents? Very well, Rathmore decided. Admiral Kreith, take a small fleet to the Sol system. Demonstrate galactic power to these humans. Bring them into the community as junior members. Kreith saluted. How small a fleet, High Counselor? 20 ships. Should be more than adequate, Rathmore replied. We are dealing with primitives who still use chemical rockets. The council erupted in approval. Several members were already planning to monitor the mission for entertainment value. As the session ended, Vexthul remained behind with Zarketh and Kreith to plan the mission details. Their stories suggest they will resist at first, Zarketh said. They have myths about glorious last stands and heroic defeats. Let them, Kreith replied. It will make the lesson more effective when they realize their heroes are just stories. I want to record everything, Vexthul said. When other primitive species see how quickly human mythology crumbles against real power, it will make future integrations easier. The three aliens looked once more at the images of human heroes and legends displayed around them. Thunder gods and mighty warriors, impossible weapons and unbreakable shields, stories of small groups defeating vast armies through courage and determination. Fairy tales, Zarketh said dismissively. Children's stories. Vexthul agreed. Soon, they will learn the difference between myth and reality, Kreith concluded. None of them noticed the small detail in one of the intercepted transmissions. Hidden in the background of a human entertainment program was a brief news report about military exercises. The report mentioned something called Project Olympus and showed what appeared to be construction work in Earth's asteroid belt. But the aliens were too busy laughing at human mythology to pay attention to human engineering. They saw only the stories, not the shipyards. They heard only the myths, not the plans. Admiral Kreith left to prepare his fleet, confident that 20 advanced ships would be more than enough to handle whatever primitive resistance the humans might offer. After all, what could a species that still believed in hammer-wielding thunder gods possibly do against real galactic technology? In 3 months, he would find out. And the laughter echoing through the Galactic Council chambers would seem very distant indeed. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the research vessel Prometheus, watching the alien fleet approach through the main view screen. 20 ships, just as Earth's deep space monitoring stations had predicted. She turned to her communications officer with a slight smile. Lieutenant Morrison, open a channel to the lead alien vessel. Channel open, Captain. Sarah straightened her uniform and put on her most professional expression. When the transmission connected, she found herself looking at a massive alien creature, with thick armored skin and small, beady eyes. This had to be Admiral Kreith of the Crusher species. Human vessel. Kreith's voice boomed through the speakers. I am Admiral Kreith of the Galactic Council Fleet. You will prepare for immediate boarding and surrender of your vessel. Sarah nodded politely. Admiral, I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth research vessel Prometheus. We're conducting routine, scientific surveys in this system. May I ask what authority you're operating under? The alien admiral looked confused for a moment. He had expected fear, or at least surprise. Instead, this human seemed to be treating this like a normal conversation. Authority? We are the Galactic Council. This system now falls under our jurisdiction. Your species will be integrated into the galactic community under our guidance. I see, Sarah replied calmly. And I assume you have documentation of this claim? Territorial agreements? Treaties with Earth's government? Kreith's confusion grew. Treaties? You are a primitive species. You have no say in this matter. With respect, Admiral, that's not how Earth's diplomatic protocols work. However, I'm not authorized to negotiate on behalf of my government. I can arrange a meeting with proper authorities if you'd like. Behind Sarah, her crew worked quietly at their stations. To the aliens watching, they looked like normal humans, operating simple equipment. What the aliens couldn't see were the quantum processors hidden behind the basic-looking control panels, or the weapons systems disguised as scientific sensors. "You will be boarded now," Kreith declared. "Resistance is futile." "Of course, Admiral. We'll prepare to receive your boarding party. Fair warning, though, our ship operates on different safety protocols than you might be used to. My people will guide your teams to avoid any accidents." 3 alien shuttles launched from the main fleet and approached the Prometheus. Sarah watched them come with interest. The aliens were being exactly as predictable as Earth's analysts had suggested they would be. "Dr. Morrison," she called to her science officer, "please escort our guests when they arrive. Standard Protocol 7. Doctor. James Morrison nodded. Protocol 7 meant, let them see what we want them to see, nothing more. The alien boarding party consisted of 6 crushers, each one nearly 8 feet tall and heavily armed. They swept onto the bridge of the Prometheus, expecting to intimidate the humans with their size and weapons. Instead, they found Captain Chen, waiting with a warm smile and a cup of coffee. "Welcome aboard, gentlemen. Can I offer you anything? Coffee? Tea? We have several varieties." The lead crusher, Commander Vark, looked around the bridge suspiciously. The equipment looked primitive, but something felt wrong. The humans seemed too calm, too prepared. "This vessel will be impounded," Vark announced. "Your crew will be transferred to our ships for processing." "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Sarah replied pleasantly. "This ship belongs to Earth's Deep Space Research Division. We have diplomatic immunity under several interstellar treaties." "You have no treaties," Vark roared. "You are primitives." Sarah reached into her jacket and pulled out a data pad. "Actually, we've been monitoring galactic communications for quite some time. We're familiar with standard diplomatic protocols. According to Galactic Council Regulation 847B, first contact must be initiated through proper diplomatic channels, not military force." She handed the datapad to Vark, who stared at it in confusion. The text was in perfect galactic standard, citing laws and regulations that most council species didn't even know existed. "How do you know these regulations?" Vark demanded. "We're a research vessel," Dr. Morrison explained helpfully. "We research things, including galactic law, apparently." Commander Vark was beginning to realize this wasn't going according to plan. His communicator buzzed with a message from Admiral Kreith, demanding a status report. Commander Vark to Admiral: "Kreith, the humans claim diplomatic immunity and seem familiar with our laws." "Impossible," came Kreith's reply. "They are primitives. Take control of their ship immediately." Sarah overheard the transmission and sighed. "I was hoping we could handle this diplomatically. Dr. Morrison, please activate the demonstration." Morrison pressed a single button on his console. Suddenly, every piece of equipment on the alien ships began malfunctioning. Weapons powered down, shields flickered, and engines sputtered. "What did you do?" Vark shouted, raising his weapon. "Oh, nothing harmful," Sarah assured him. "We're just demonstrating that your technology isn't quite as advanced as you thought. Our scanning systems have been analyzing your ship since you arrived. Turns out your computers are vulnerable to some very basic quantum interference." On the main view screen, they could see the alien fleet in chaos. Ships were bumping into each other as their navigation systems failed. Several had gone completely dark. Admiral Kreith's voice crackled over the communicator, filled with rage and confusion. "What is happening? Report." Sarah activated the ship's external communications. "Admiral Kreith, this is Captain Chen. Your fleet is experiencing some technical difficulties. Nothing permanent, I assure you. Consider it a demonstration." "Demonstration? Of what?" "That maybe your intelligence about Earth was incomplete." Sarah's tone remained friendly, but her eyes had gone cold. "You came here expecting to find primitives who believe in impossible myths. Instead, you found humans who turned those myths into engineering projects." She gestured to Dr. Morrison, who pressed another button. The alien ship systems came back online, but now every screen displayed the same message in Galactic Standard. Greetings from Earth's Defense Research Division. You wanted to meet the species that created Thor and Hercules, Sarah continued. Well, Admiral, you're looking at us. The difference is we didn't just tell stories about lightning hammers and impossible strength, we built them. Commander Vark backed away from Sarah, his weapon trembling in his hands. You're bluffing. Your ship looks primitive, Sarah smiled. Dr. Morrison, please show our guests what a real research vessel looks like. The walls of the bridge suddenly became transparent, revealing the true structure of the ship beneath the disguised exterior. What the aliens had thought was a simple research vessel was actually a warship, unlike anything in their databases. Weapon systems that bent space itself, shield generators that shouldn't have been possible, and a power core that seemed to violate several laws of physics. This is the Prometheus, Sarah explained. She's not actually a research vessel. She's a test platform for something we call Project Olympus. We've been building ships like this for 50 years, ever since we detected your transmissions and realized we weren't alone. Admiral Creeth's image appeared on the main screen, his face showing a mixture of confusion and growing fear. This is impossible. Our intelligence showed you we're primitives. Your intelligence was looking at what we wanted you to see. Sarah replied. We learned a long time ago that it's better to be underestimated. You saw our mythology and assumed we were dreamers. You missed the part where we're also engineers. She stood up from her captain's chair and walked closer to the screen. You came here to subjugate the species that believes in impossible heroes, Admiral. Here's the thing about humans. We don't just believe in impossible things. We figure out how to make them possible. What do you want? Creeth asked. Sarah's smile widened. What we've always wanted. To meet our neighbors and maybe make some friends, but you decided to come in shooting first and asking questions later. That changes things. She pressed a button on her chair's armrest. Throughout the Sol system, previously hidden ships began powering up their engines and weapons. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids, hidden in gas giant atmospheres and camouflaged against the lunar surface. We accept your challenge, Admiral, Sarah said quietly. You wanted to see what happens when human myths meet galactic reality. Send word back to your council. Tell them Earth is ready to play. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Creeth staring at a blank screen while his fleet struggled to understand how 20 ships had just been completely outmaneuvered by a single human vessel. And in the depths of space, Earth's real fleet began to move. 50 years earlier, Dr. Elena Vasquez had been a young physicist working late in her laboratory when the first alien transmission reached Earth. She remembered that night clearly, the moment humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. What she remembered even more clearly was the meeting, 3 days later when General Marcus Torres changed everything. Ladies and gentlemen, Torres had said to the assembled scientists, engineers, and military personnel in the underground facility, we have a problem. These aliens have technology we can't match and numbers we can't fight. Traditional military thinking says we're finished before we start. The room had been filled with Earth's best minds, all trying to figure out how humanity could survive in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. Elena had raised her hand. What if we don't think traditionally? Torres had looked at her with interest. Explain. Every human culture has myths about impossible things. Gods who throw lightning, heroes who never lose, weapons that always hit. Their target. What if those weren't just stories? What if they were blueprints? The room had fallen silent. Then someone laughed. Then someone else called it crazy. But Torres had listened, and Elena had kept talking. We know the aliens monitor our transmissions. They'll study our technology, our military, our capabilities. But they won't study our mythology because they'll think it's just fiction. We can hide our real development behind stories they'll dismiss as primitive superstition. That conversation had led to Project Olympus, and Elena was now its chief theoretical physicist. She stood in the same underground facility, but it had grown into a vast complex stretching for miles beneath the Earth's surface. Around her, thousands of engineers worked on projects that would have seemed impossible 5 decades ago. Dr. Vasquez called out her assistant, Dr. Park. The Mjolnir array is ready for final testing. Elena smiled. The Mjolnir array was one of her favorite projects. Based on the Norse god Thor's hammer, it was a weapon system that could call down kinetic strikes from orbit with pinpoint accuracy. But unlike the mythological weapon, this one used gravity manipulation and quantum targeting to ensure it never missed its target. "Run the test," she ordered. In space, invisible to alien sensors, a small satellite adjusted its position. On the test range 500 miles away, a decommissioned tank sat alone in the desert. The satellite fired a single microscopic projectile that accelerated to nearly the speed of light before striking the tank. The explosion looked exactly like a lightning strike from heaven. "Perfect accuracy, zero collateral damage," Dr. Park reported. "The aliens won't even know what hit them." Elena nodded and moved to the next project station. Here, engineers were working on Aegis shield technology, inspired by the impenetrable shield of Greek mythology. The real version used quantum field manipulation to create barriers that could stop anything from energy weapons to physical projectiles. "How's the power consumption?" Elena asked the lead engineer. "Down to acceptable levels," came the reply. "A single ship can maintain full defensive shields for up to 72 hours of continuous combat." Elena moved on to the Hermes Drive section, where her team had solved faster-than-light travel by studying myths about gods who could travel anywhere instantly. The drive didn't actually bend space-time like alien technology did. Instead, it moved ships through quantum dimensions that existed parallel to normal space. "The aliens won't be able to track us," explained Dr. Chen, the drive's designer. "Their sensors can't detect movement through quantum space because they don't know it exists." Throughout the facility, similar projects were reaching completion. The Phoenix system allowed ships to rebuild themselves from debris. Berserker combat protocols made human fighters continue operating, even when they should have been destroyed. The Kraken deep space construction platforms could build entire fleets while hidden in gas giant atmospheres. Elena made her way to General Torres's office, now located in the facility's command center. Through the massive windows, she could see Earth's real shipyard spread out below. Hundreds of vessels in various stages of construction, each one incorporating technology that aliens would consider impossible. "The alien fleet reached the outer system this morning," Torres told her as she entered. "Captain Chen is handling first contact according to plan." Elena had known Sarah Chen since the early days of the project. Back then, Chen had been a young military officer assigned to study alien combat tactics. Now she commanded humanity's first line of defense. "How did they react to the demonstration?" Elena asked. Torres smiled grimly. "Confusion, followed by panic. They're trying to figure out how we disabled their ships without visible weapons. And they won't figure it out," Elena said with satisfaction, "because they're looking for technology that follows their understanding of physics. They can't imagine that we've learned to break the rules they think are absolute." On the main display, Torres showed her the alien fleet's position and the locations of Earth's hidden ships. What looked like 20 aliens facing one human vessel was actually 20 aliens surrounded by over 300 human ships, all invisible to alien sensors. "The real test comes next," Torres said. Chen sent word back to the Galactic Council. They'll send a real fleet this time. Elena looked at the tactical display showing Earth's defensive positions. Ships hidden in asteroid belts, weapons platforms, disguised as space debris, manufacturing facilities that looked like empty space to alien sensors. "Let them come," she said. "We've had 50 years to prepare for this moment." Torres pulled up another display showing the project's true scope. Bases on every planet and moon in the solar system, weapons that could strike targets in other star systems, ships capable of speeds that alien physics said were impossible. "The aliens studied our mythology and dismissed it as primitive fantasy," Torres said. "They never realized that humans don't just tell stories about impossible things. We find ways to make them real." Elena thought about all the myths and legends that had inspired their technology. Greek heroes who never backed down, Norse gods who commanded the elements, Chinese legends of immortal warriors, African stories of spirits who could reshape reality. Every human culture had contributed something to Project Olympus. "They think our weakness is that we live in fantasy," Elena said. They don't understand that our strength is making fantasy into reality. The communication system chimed with an incoming message from Captain Chen. Dr. Vasquez, we've received confirmation. The Galactic Council is mobilizing what they're calling the largest war fleet in galactic history. 10,000 ships. Elena and Torres looked at each other. 10,000 ships was more than they had expected, but not more than they had prepared for. How long until they arrive? Torres asked. 3 months, Chen replied. Elena smiled. 3 months was perfect. It would give them time to complete the final preparations and move their fleet into position. More importantly, it would give Earth's shipyards time to finish building the surprise they had been working on for decades. General, Elena said, I think it's time to activate the Olympus. Torres nodded. Send the word to all bases. Full mobilization. Operation Olympus is now active. Across the solar system, the signal went out. Hidden bases came online. Disguised shipyards revealed their true purpose, and weapons that had been carefully concealed for 50 years began powering up. The aliens were coming to crush the primitive humans who believed in impossible myths. They would find humans who had spent half a century turning those myths into the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. Elena looked out at the shipyards, where Earth's true fleet was preparing for war. Ships named after heroes, and gods' weapons inspired by legends, shields, and engines that made mythology into engineering. The aliens had laughed at human stories of heroes defeating impossible odds. Soon they would learn that humans didn't just tell those stories. They lived them. Admiral Kreeth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the massive fleet emerge from hyperspace around him. 10,000 ships from across the galaxy had answered the Galactic Council's call. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Admiral, his communications officer reported, all fleet elements have arrived and are in formation. Kreeth nodded with satisfaction. After the humiliation he had suffered 3 months ago, this felt good. The humans had somehow disabled his small fleet with tricks and deception. But tricks wouldn't work against 10,000 ships. Signal all vessels, he ordered. Begin advance toward the inner system, standard conquest formation. The massive, alien armada began moving toward Earth, confident that no force in the galaxy could stand against them. Kreeth had studied the intelligence reports over and over. Earth had perhaps 50 ships, and those were simple exploration vessels with basic defensive capabilities. As the fleet passed Jupiter, Kreeth's tactical officer called out a warning. Admiral, we're detecting some unusual readings from the gas giant's atmosphere. Explain. Energy signatures that don't match any known technology. Could be some kind of industrial activity. Kreeth dismissed it with a wave. Probably mining operations. Primitives always strip resources from gas giants when they start expanding into space. But as they continued toward Earth, more unusual readings appeared. Energy signatures from the asteroid belt, strange gravitational distortions near Mars, and what looked like construction activity on Earth's moon. Admiral, the tactical officer said with growing concern, these readings are getting stronger. Whatever the humans are doing, it's much larger than we thought. Before Kreeth could respond, his long-range sensors detected something that made him freeze. Ships. Hundreds of them, emerging from hiding places throughout the solar system. That's impossible, Kreeth muttered. Intelligence said they had, maybe, 50 vessels. The first ships appeared from behind asteroids, their hulls designed to blend perfectly with the surrounding rock. More emerged from the shadows of Jupiter's moons, rising up from hiding places in the gas giant's rings. Still more detached themselves from what had appeared to be space debris floating throughout the system. Within minutes, Kreeth's sensors were tracking over 300 human vessels, all heading directly toward his fleet. Admiral, his communications officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." On the main screen, Captain Sarah Chen appeared, but she was no longer wearing the simple uniform of a research vessel commander. Instead, she wore the elaborate dress uniform of a fleet admiral, with insignia that indicated she commanded the entire human space force. "Admiral Kreeth," Chen said with a slight smile. "Welcome back to the Sol system. I see you brought some friends this time." "You deceived us," Kreeth accused. You pretended to be a simple research captain. I never lied, Chen replied. I told you I wasn't authorized to negotiate on behalf of my government. Research captains aren't authorized for that. Fleet admirals are. Behind Chen, the bridge of her ship was clearly visible, and it looked nothing like the simple research vessel the aliens had boarded months earlier. Advanced displays showed tactical information that hurt to look at, control systems that seemed to respond to thought rather than touch, and crew members working with technology that alien science said shouldn't exist. This is Admiral Sarah Chen, of the Earth Defense Force commanding the battleship Olympus, she continued. You came to our system with a war fleet. We consider that an act of aggression. Kreith tried to regain his composure. You have 300 ships. We have 10,000. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Chen's smile widened. 300? Admiral, I think your sensors need calibration. Suddenly, space around the alien fleet erupted with new contacts. What had appeared to be empty space began revealing hidden ships. Vessels uncloaked from behind electromagnetic screens emerged from quantum-dimensional pockets and materialized from what had seemed like empty vacuum. Kreith watched in growing horror as his tactical display showed the true size of the human fleet. Over 800 ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything in the alien databases. How? He whispered. We've been building ships for 50 years, Chen explained. Ever since we detected your transmissions and realized we'd need to defend ourselves. The difference is, we didn't build according to galactic standard designs. We built according to human imagination. The lead human ship, the Olympus, was massive beyond anything the aliens had expected. It stretched for miles, bristling with weapons that defied identification and protected by shields that seemed to bend reality around them. But it wasn't just the size that bothered Kreith. It was the names. As his sensors identified the human ships, the names appeared on his tactical display. Ragnarok, Leviathan, Phoenix Rising, Mjolnir, Aegis, Hercules, Kraken, Valkyrie. They named their ships after their myths, his tactical officer observed with growing unease. Sir, another officer called out. Our weapons are having trouble getting target locks. Their ships are doing something to our sensors. Chen's voice came over the communications again. Admiral, your sensors are having trouble because our ships don't operate according to physics your people understand. We didn't copy galactic technology. We invented our own. One of the human ships, the Phoenix Rising, demonstrated this by flying directly through an asteroid. Instead of being destroyed, the ship seemed to absorb the asteroid's mass and emerge, larger and stronger on the other side. Another ship, the Ragnarok, fired what looked like weapons made of pure darkness. The energy beams passed right through the alien fleet's shields and began systematically shutting down ship systems without causing physical damage. Impossible, Kreith breathed. You keep saying that, Chen observed. But you're looking at the evidence. We turned our mythology into engineering, Admiral. Every impossible story your people laughed at became a design specification for us. The ship named Leviathan was almost organic in appearance, twisting and changing shape as it moved through space. Weapons grew from its hull like living things, while its shields flowed like water around incoming fire. Your people studied our myths and dismissed them as primitive fantasy, Chen continued. You saw stories about heroes who never gave up, weapons that always found their target, shields that couldn't be broken. You thought they were just stories we told because we were weak. The human formation was spreading out now, surrounding the alien fleet with practiced precision. Each ship moved with purpose, taking positions that would give them maximum advantage in the coming battle. You missed the point, Chen said. We didn't tell those stories because we were weak. We told them because they were blueprints for what we planned to become. Kreith finally found his voice. What do you want? The same thing we've always wanted, Chen replied. To be left alone to live our lives in peace. But you came here with a war fleet. You made this a military matter instead of a diplomatic one. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. So now we'll handle it militarily. Your fleet will withdraw from our system immediately. You'll return to the Galactic Council and deliver a message from Earth. What message? Chen's expression grew cold. That the species you thought were primitive dreamers have spent 50 years preparing for this moment. We built ships your science says can't exist, using weapons your physics says are impossible, protected by defenses your technology can't penetrate. The human fleet continued to maneuver around the aliens, demonstrating capabilities that violated everything the aliens thought they knew about space combat. Tell your council, Chen continued, that Earth is no longer interested in joining the galactic community as junior partners. We're prepared to take our place as an equal power, or to defend our independence if necessary. Kreith looked at his tactical display, seeing 10,000 alien ships surrounded by 800 human vessels that seemed to exist outside the normal laws of physics. And if we refuse? Admiral Chen's smile returned, but now it held no warmth at all. Then you'll discover what happens when the species that created Thor and Hercules decides to stop playing defense and start playing offense. In the depths of space around them, human ships began powering weapons that channeled forces the aliens couldn't identify, protected by shields that bent reality itself, crewed by humans who had spent 50 years turning impossible dreams into unstoppable reality. The aliens had come to crush the dreamers. Instead, they had found the dreams themselves, armed and ready for war. The space around Earth erupted into the largest battle in galactic history. Admiral Kreith had made his choice. He would not retreat before primitives, no matter what tricks they had learned. His 10,000 ships opened fire on the human fleet, confident that numbers would overwhelm whatever strange technology the humans possessed. He was wrong. The first alien salvo struck the human ship Aegis, named after the impenetrable shield of Greek mythology. The energy weapons and kinetic projectiles hit the ship's shields and simply stopped, as if they had struck an invisible wall that nothing could pass through. Impossible, Kreith muttered, watching his fleet's most powerful weapons fail to even scratch the human vessel's defenses. Sir, his tactical officer called out, the humans are returning fire. The ship named Mjolnir lived up to its mythological namesake. Instead of conventional weapons, it fired what could only be described as controlled lightning. Bolts of pure energy reached out across space, striking alien ships with pinpoint accuracy. Each bolt passed through the aliens' shields, as if they weren't there, shutting down ship systems and leaving vessels dead in space. How are they penetrating our defenses? Kreith demanded. His science officer was frantically studying the readings. Sir, their weapons aren't using energy frequencies we can shield against. It's like they're attacking our ships through dimensions we didn't know existed. The battle intensified as more human ships engaged. The Phoenix Rising demonstrated its mythological ability to rise from death by deliberately flying into a group of alien destroyers. The collision should have destroyed all the ships involved. Instead, the Phoenix Rising absorbed the wreckage and emerged even larger and more powerful than before. That ship just ate our destroyers, an alien captain reported over the communication channel, his voice filled with disbelief. The Ragnarok opened fire with weapons that looked like they were tearing holes in space itself. Dark energy poured out of the ship's guns, creating expanding fields of nothingness that consumed everything they touched. Alien ships caught in these fields didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication channel. Admiral Kreith, this is your last chance to withdraw. You're fighting myths that have become reality. You cannot win this battle. But Kreith was too proud to retreat. All ships, maximum firepower, destroy the human flagship. The entire alien fleet focused their fire on the Olympus, pouring enough energy into their attack to destroy a small moon. The massive human ship disappeared in a cloud of explosions and energy discharges. For a moment, the aliens cheered. Then the smoke cleared, and the Olympus emerged completely undamaged. Direct hit on target, reported the alien gunnery officer. No effect. The truth was that the Olympus wasn't protected by conventional shields. Instead, it existed partially, outside normal space-time, using technology inspired by myths about gods who lived in other dimensions. Physical attacks couldn't harm something that wasn't entirely there. Your turn, Admiral Chen said calmly. The Olympus returned fire with weapons that defied description. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, It launched attacks that seemed to rewrite reality around the target ships. Alien vessels found their own weapons turning against them, their shields becoming prisons that trapped them, their engines creating gravity fields that crushed their own hulls. Throughout the battle, human ships demonstrated capabilities that broke every rule of space combat the aliens knew. The Leviathan changed shape constantly, growing new weapons and defenses as needed. The Valkyrie moved faster than light without using hyperspace, appearing in multiple locations at once. The Hercules grappled with alien dreadnoughts using energy fields shaped like giant hands, crushing ships that outmassed it by thousands of tons. "Sir," Creeth's tactical officer called out desperately, "we've lost over half the fleet. Our weapons aren't working. Their defenses are impossible to penetrate." Creeth watched his tactical display in growing horror. The human ships weren't just winning. They were playing with the alien fleet like children with toys. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, weapons that shouldn't exist kept firing, and defenses that violated physics kept protecting human vessels from all attacks. But the worst part was the human casualties. There weren't any. Not a single human ship had been destroyed or even seriously damaged. The aliens were being systematically dismantled by a force that seemed unstoppable. "How?" Creeth whispered. "How did primitives become this powerful?" "Admiral," Chen answered as if she had heard him. "We had good teachers, Admiral. Every myth, every legend, every impossible story our species ever told taught us something about refusing to accept limitations." On the tactical display, Creeth could see his remaining ships being systematically disabled. The humans weren't destroying the alien vessels. They were carefully shutting down their weapons and engines, leaving the crews alive but helpless. "You studied our stories and laughed at them," Chen continued. "You saw tales of heroes who never gave up, who found ways to win against impossible odds, who turned their weaknesses into strengths. You thought they were just fiction." A new human ship appeared on the sensors, larger than any vessel the aliens had ever seen. It moved through space like a living thing, and when it fired its weapons, entire groups of alien ships simply stopped functioning. "That's the Kraken," Chen explained, "inspired by legends of sea monsters that could destroy entire fleets. We built it to be exactly what the stories described, a single ship capable of defeating an armada." Creeth realized the battle was over. His 10,000 ships had been reduced to fewer than 2,000, and those were all disabled and drifting. The human fleet surrounded them completely, weapons powered and ready to finish the job. "I surrender," Creeth said quietly. "Smart choice," Chen replied. "But surrender isn't enough, Admiral. You came to our system to conquer us. That makes this a war crime under galactic law." Creeth felt cold fear creeping through him. "What do you want?" "Justice," Chen answered. "Your fleet will be impounded. Your crews will be treated according to standard prisoner of war protocols, and you, personally, will deliver a message to the Galactic Council." "What message?" Chen's image appeared on Creeth's main screen again, but now she wasn't alone. Behind her stood other human officers, all wearing the same expression of quiet confidence. "Tell them that Earth formally declares its independence from any galactic authority," she said. "We claim sovereignty over our entire star system and full rights as an independent power." She paused, letting that sink in. "Tell them that any attempt to interfere with human affairs will be considered an act of war. And tell them what happened here when you tried to conquer the species that believes in impossible heroes." Creeth looked around his ruined bridge at the tactical display showing his fleet's complete defeat, at the human ships that had made reality out of mythology. "They won't believe it," he said. "Then bring proof," Chen replied. "We'll be sending some of our ships back with you. Let your council see what we've built. Let them understand what happens when a species refuses to accept that anything is impossible." 6 months later, Creeth stood before the Galactic Council once again, but this time, he wasn't there to report a successful conquest. Instead, he was delivering humanity's terms for peace. They defeated 10,000 ships with 800, he told the silent council chambers. They used weapons we couldn't understand, defenses we couldn't penetrate, tactics that violated everything we know about space combat. High Counselor Rathmore listened with growing amazement. And their demands? Recognition as an equal power, territorial sovereignty over their star system, and the right to intervene if they detect any species being conquered against their will. Ambassador Vexthul, who had started this whole situation by mocking human mythology, spoke up nervously. And if we refuse? Kreeth gestured to the viewing windows. Outside, 3 human ships hung in space near the council station. The Hercules, the Valkyrie, and the Thor. Even at rest, they radiated a sense of power that made the alien vessels nearby look like children's toys. Then Earth becomes the galaxy's new police force, Kreeth said. Whether we like it or not, Counselor Zarketh, who had once called humans delusional primitives, now spoke with newfound respect. How did we misunderstand them so completely? We saw their myths and thought they were stories about power they wished they had. Kreeth explained. We didn't realize they were blueprints for power they planned to build. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council formally recognized Earth as an independent power and agreed to all human demands. As the session ended, Vexthul approached Kreeth privately. What are they really like? The humans? Kreeth thought about Admiral Chen and her crew, about the quiet confidence they had shown even when facing impossible odds. They're exactly like their myths, he said finally. Heroes who refuse to give up, who find ways to win against any enemy, who turn their wildest dreams into reality. He paused. We should never have laughed at their stories. We should have been afraid of them. On Earth, children in schools across the world learned about the day their planet stood up to the galaxy and won. They heard stories about Admiral Chen and the fleet that made myths into reality.